on their Wednesday.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom, Judas.
And welcome to another celebration of the creation of the universe. We thank God that He's brought us here yet again to celebrate His creation. He completed in 6 days, and on the 7th day He hallowed it. And this is a celebration that we, at His command, from the beginning of creation, He set it aside, this day, this Sabbath day. And we thank Him. And He set it aside and commanded, not asked, commanded that we remember His creation by not doing any servile work on this day. And as an example, once Israel came out of Egypt and they were in the wilderness and God provided manna for them, on each day they collected a certain amount of manna. If they left it over for the next day, it spoiled. But on the 6th day, they would collect twice as much as they did on other days. And on the 7th day Sabbath, it did not spoil. And so John is fond of saying,
the Sabbath day is on God.
It's something about that God had provided for Israel. And even today, you'll find that in Jewish households around the world, they prepare all week for the Shabbat. It's not a thing that they jump up and do at the last minute. Elaborate menus are prepared. And the table is set in the finest silverware. And dishes, one lady on the YouTube, and I think she has like 5 or 6 kids and works, and she would prepare so many appetizers, a main course, challah, sourdough bread, and then dessert, because this is a festive occasion. So we remember the creation. And also in synagogues around the world, they have divided the Torah, the first 5 books of the Old Testament, into 52 portions. And this week, these are the last 2 portions in the book of Numbers, or Bamidbar. And there are 2 Parshas. One is Mattot, tribes, Numbers 31 through 30, verse 1 through 32, 42. And the last one is Mesai, journeyings of Numbers 33, 1 through 36, 13. And Mattot begins, Ve'yedeber Moshe el Roshi ha-Mattot Levi Yisrael Lamor. Ze hadavar asher tzivah Adonai. Moses spoke to the heads of the Israelites' tribe, saying, this is what the Lord has commanded. And Masei begins, Ele Masei b'nei Israel asher yitz'u me'eretz Mitzrayim litzavatam beyad Moshe ve'Aharon. These were the marches of the Israelites who started out from the land of Egypt, troop by troop, in the charge of Moses and Aaron.
Psalm 146. Praise ye the Lord. Praise the Lord, O my soul. While I live, I will praise the Lord. I will sing praises unto my God, which I have any being, while I have any being. Put not your trust in princes, nor in the Son of Man, in whom there is no help. His breath goeth forth, he returneth to the earth. In that very day his thoughts perish. Happy is he that hath the God of Jacob for his help, whose hope is in the Lord his God, which made heaven and earth, the seas and all therein is, which keeps the trust forever, which keeps the truth forever. which execute judgment for the oppressed, who gives food to the hungry. The Lord loosens the prisoners. The Lord opened the eyes of the blind. The Lord raises them that are bowed down. The Lord loveth the righteous. The Lord preserveth the stranger. He revileth the fatherless and widow, but the ways of the wicked he turns upside down. The Lord shall reign forever, even the God, O Zion, unto all generations. Praise ye the Lord. This is the word of the Lord. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. May your kingdom come, and may your will be done. We give thanks to you, Lord God, for you have brought us to, and you have brought us into your Shabbat. This day you rested and blessed and created at the beginning. And in time you commanded your people, the Jews, whom you brought out of Egypt, that they should rest on this day as well, to remember the great deliverance, that you have brought them out on eagle's wings. You have brought them out of the house of bondage and slavery, and brought them to Mount Sinai, where you gave them this command, and other commands as well, that they should rest on this day, and acknowledge the God who, with power and might, through keeping his promise, has brought them into a good land, who will bring them into a good land, and to honor the God who has delivered such who have delivered. And in this day, our brethren the Jews celebrate and study and pray and sing and rejoice with glad hearts for what the God of heaven has done for them. And we celebrate along with them, for Christ has come, the Messiah himself, to sacrifice and to reconcile us, to pay a debt that we could not pay, to bring us out of the captivity of sin, and to free us, so that we may also sing and give glad praises, and pray and give thanks to the God who has delivered us. And we, Lord, celebrate this day and give thanks to you. We await for that day when the Messiah comes again with a dwelling place for us, that we may be drawn closer and closer. And we give thanks, Lord, for the promise he has made, and the promise that you have made, and have kept. We thank you also for the Spirit who remains with us. And it is in the name of the Christ we pray. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Mamotzi Lechem means thou art. Blessed art you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who gives us bread from the earth. Barukata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Berei pri hagafen. Blessed art you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who gives us from the fruit of the vine. Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom, Judith.
Right, this is the last part of Numbers, and then we will head into a new into Deuteronomy. Okay, and the first one is Mattot. All right. And Moses spoke to the heads of the tribes, heads of the Israelite tribes, saying, "This is what the Lord has commanded. If a man makes a vow to the Lord and takes an oath, imposing an obligation on himself, he shall not break his pledge. He must carry out all that has crossed his lips. If a woman makes a vow to the Lord and assumes an obligation while still in her father's household by reason of her youth, and her father learns of her vow or her self-imposed obligation and offers no objection, all her vows shall stand, and every self-imposed obligation shall stand. But if her father restrains her on the day he finds out, none of her vows or self-imposed obligations shall stand, and the Lord will forgive her since her father restrained her. If she should marry while her vow or the commitment to which she bound herself is still in force, and her husband learns of it and offers no objections on the day he finds out, her vow shall stand and her self-imposed obligations shall stand. But if her husband restrains her on that day that he learns of it, he thereby annuls her vow, which was in force, or the commitment to which she bound herself, and the Lord will forgive her. The vow of a widow or a divorced woman, however, whatever she has imposed on herself, shall be binding upon her. So too, if while in her husband's household she makes a vow or imposes an obligation on herself by oath, and her husband learns of it, yet offers no objection, this failing to restrain her, all her vows shall stand, and all her self-imposed obligations shall stand. But if her husband does annul them on the day he finds out, then nothing that has crossed her lips shall stand, whether vows or self-imposed obligations. Her husband has annulled them, and the Lord will forgive her. Every vow and every sworn obligation of self-denial may be upheld by her husband or annulled by her husband. If her husband offers no objections from the day to the next, he has upheld all the vows or obligations she has assumed. He has upheld them by offering no objection on the day he found out. But if he annuls them after the day he finds out, he shall bear her guilt. Those are the laws that the Lord enjoined upon Moses as between a man and his wife, and between a father and his daughter, while in her father's household by reason of her youth.
Okay, this one is, actually, this one is a little bit different, I should say. At the beginning says, Moses spoke unto the heads of the tribe concerning the children of Israel. So how do you become the head of a tribe? And the sages say, or one teacher said, Moses just picks them. He said, you're the head of a tribe? You're not the head of a tribe? I said, well, you're the head of a tribe? You're the head of a tribe? He just, I don't want to say arbitrarily picks them, but he appoints them as the head of a tribe. And why is that so? Why does he have to do that? Well, actually, God's given the instruction, but why does God want them to do that? This is nearing the end of their 40 years in the desert, and life is going to change. They were dependent upon God for those, well, they'll be dependent upon God even in the land itself. But primarily while they were in the desert, food was provided for them, water was provided for them, cover from the heat was provided for them, the clothes didn't wear out, they didn't get sick, they didn't sin. So God was spiritually providing for them at that time. Now they're going to go into the land, and things are going to change. When they say something, the word has to mean something. It has to be something that is significant. Here, man will make a vow, but it doesn't necessarily say who he's making a vow to, but basically a vow is when you give your word, you have to keep it. Now they're pointing out this, women, I guess, can be exempt from vows, or a father can veto a vow, or a husband can veto a vow. And some say that the husband or father can veto a vow whether the wife or the daughter hears him or not. Say it's vetoed. He can hear it and say veto, and that's the end of it. Now, whether or not she hears him say veto doesn't matter. The key is he hears it, and he can veto it, or he can approve it. Now, there's two things here. There's a vow and an oath. And what's the difference between a vow and an oath? With the oath, that's in the court of law, where you are testifying against a matter of truth. You're testifying that you saw something or you observed something. So you're just reflecting on a matter of truth, or you're providing some type of evidence. But it's different than a vow. A vow is, it's as if it's something you can impose upon yourself, something legitimate, something you can do. Let's say you'll take a vow that you won't eat meat for 30 days. So there's nothing wrong with eating meat, but you can impose this on yourself. Could be health reason, could be expensive, any reason. But it's something that you impose upon yourself for whatever reason. But it's a permitted activity, but you impose it upon yourself. And that's pretty much the difference between a vow and an oath. Oath has to do with, you raise your right hand, you can affirm it, and it's a court of law, but a vow doesn't necessarily have to be a court of law. I guess the big takeaway is man's participation is becoming more, man is Yeah, man's participation is becoming more involved because they're going into the land. And the word of a man and the word of a woman has to mean something. And I think that's all I've got for now.
Okay. The second part of Mattot is war and first settlement from Numbers 31:1 through 32:42. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Avenge the Israelite people on the Midianites, then you shall be gathered to your kin." Moses spoke to the people, saying, "Let men be picked out from among you for a campaign, and let them fall upon Midian to wreak the Lord's vengeance on Midian. You shall dispatch on the campaign 1,000 from every one of the tribes of Israel." So 1,000 from each tribe were furnished from the division of Israel, 12,000 picked for the campaign. Moses dispatched them on the campaign, 1,000 from each tribe, with Pinchas, son of Eleazar, serving as priest on the campaign, equipped with the sacred utensils and the trumpets for sounding the blast. They took the field against Midian, as the Lord had commanded Moses, and slew every male, along with their other victims. They slew the kings of Midian, Evi, Rahim, Zur, Hur, and Reba, the 5 kings of Midian. They also put Balaam, son of Peor, to the sun. The Israelites took the women and children of the Midianites captive, and seized as booty all their beasts, all their herds, all their wealth, and they destroyed by fire all the towns in which they were settled in their encampments. They gathered all the spoil and all the booty, man and beast, and they brought the captives, the booty and the spoil, to Moses, Eleazar the priest, and the whole Israelite community at the camp in the steppes of Moab, at the Jordan near Jericho. Moses, Eleazar the priest, and all the chieftains of the community came out to meet them outside the camp. Moses became angry with the commanders of the army, the officers of the thousands and the officers of hundreds, who had come back from the military campaign. Moses said to them, "You have spared every female, yet they are the very ones who, at the bidding of Balaam, induced the Israelites to trespass against the Lord in the matter of Peor, so that the Lord's community was struck by the plague. Now therefore slay every male among the children, and slay also every woman who has known a man carnally. But spare every young woman who has not had carnal relations with a man. You shall then stay outside the camp 7 days, every one among you, or among your captives who have slain a person or touched a corpse, shall cleanse himself on the 3rd and 7th day. And you shall also cleanse every cloth, every article of skin, everything made of goat's hair, and every object of wood." Eleazar the priest said to the troops who had taken part in the fighting, "This is the ritual law that the Lord has enjoined upon Moses: gold and silver, copper, iron, tin, and lead, any article that can withstand fire. These you shall pass through fire, and they shall be cleaned, except that they must be cleansed with water of lustration. And anything that cannot withstand fire, you must pass through water. On the 7th day you shall wash your clothes and be clean, and after that you may enter the camp." The Lord said to Moses, "You and Eleazar the priest, and the family of heads of the community, take an inventory of the booty that was captured, man and beast, and divide the booty equally between the combatants who engaged in the campaign and the rest of the community. You shall exact a levy for the people, for the Lord, in the case of a warrior who engaged in the campaign. 1 item and 500 of persons, oxen, asses, and sheep, shall be taken from their half share and given to Eleazar the priest as a contribution to the Lord. And from the half share of the other Israelites you shall withhold 1 in every 50 human beings, as well as cattle, asses, and sheep, all the animals, and give them to the Levites, who attend to the duties of the Lord's tabernacle. Moses and Eleazar the priest did as the Lord commanded Moses. The amount of booty other than the spoil the troops had plundered came to 675,000 sheep, 73,000 head of cattle, 61,000 asses, and a total of 32,000 human beings, namely the women who had not had carnal relations. Thus, the half share of those who had engaged in the campaign was as follows. The number of sheep was 337,500, and the Lord's levy from the sheep was 675. The cattle came in 36,000, from which the Lord's levy was 72. The asses came to 30,500, from which the Lord's levy was 61. And the number of human beings was 16,000, from which the Lord's levy was 32. Moses gave the contributions levied for the Lord to Eleazar the priest, as the Lord had commanded Moses. As for the half share of the other Israelites, which Moses withdrew from the men who had taken the field, that half share of the community consisted of 337,500 sheep, 36,000 head of cattle, 30,500 asses, and 16,000 human beings. From this half share of the Israelites, Moses withheld 1 in every 50 humans and animals, and he gave them to the Levites, who attended to the duties of the Lord's tabernacle, as the Lord had commanded Moses. The commanders of the troops, divisions, the officers of thousands, and the officers of hundreds approached Moses. They said to Moses, "Your servants have made a check of the warriors on our charge, and not one of us is missing. So we have brought as an offering to the Lord such articles of gold as each of us came upon, armlets, bracelets, signet, rings, earrings, and pendants, that expiation may be made for our persons before the Lord." Moses and Eleazar the priest accepted the gold from them, all kinds of wrought articles, all the gold that was offered by the officers of thousands and the officers of hundreds, as a contribution to the Lord, came to 16,750 shekels. But in the ranks everyone kept his booty for himself. So Moses and Eleazar the priests accepted the gold from the officers of thousands and the officers of hundreds, and brought it to the tent of meeting as a reminder in behalf of the Israelites before the Lord. The Reubenites and the Gadites owned cattle in very great numbers. Noting that the lands of Yazer and Gilead were a region suitable for cattle, the Gadites and the Reubenites came to Moses, Eleazar the priest, and the chieftains of the community, and said, "Ataroth, Dibon, Yazer, Nimrah, Heshbon, Eleale, Shebam, Nebo, Ben-On, and the land that the Lord has conquered for the community of Israel is cattle country, and your servants have cattle. It would be a favor to us," they continued, "if this land were given to your servants as a holding. Do not move us across the Jordan." Moses replied to the Gadites and the Reubenites, "Are your brothers to go to war while you stay here? Why will you turn the minds of the Israelites from crossing into the land which the Lord has given them? That is what your fathers did when I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to survey the land. After going up to the Wadi Eshkol and surveying the land, they turned the minds of the Israelites from invading the land that the Lord had given them. Thereupon the Lord was incensed, and he swore, 'None of the men from 20 years up who came out of Egypt shall we see the land that I promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, for they did what not remain loyal to me. None except Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, and Joshua, son of Nun, for they remained loyal to the Lord. The Lord was incensed at Israel, and for 40 years he made them wander in the wilderness, until the whole generation that provoked the Lord's displeasure was gone. And now you, breed of sinful men, have replaced your fathers to add still further to the Lord's wrath against Israel. If you turn away from him, and he abandons them once more in the wilderness, you will bring calamity upon this people. Then they stepped up to him and said, we will build here sheepfold for our flocks, and towns for our children, and we will hasten as shock troops in the van of the Israelites until we have established them in their home, while our children stay in the fortified towns because of the inhabitants of the land. We will not return to our homes until every one of the Israelites is in possession of his portion, but we will not have a share with them in the territory beyond the Jordan, for we have received our share on the east side of the Jordan. Moses said to them, if you do this, if you go to battle as shock troop at the instance of the Lord, and every shock fighter among you crosses the Jordan at the instance of the Lord until he has dispossessed his enemies before him, and the land has been subdued at the instance of the Lord, and then you return, you shall be clear before the Lord and before Israel, and this land shall be your holding under the Lord. But if you do not do so, you will have sinned against the Lord, and know that your sins will overtake you. Build towns for your children, and sheepfolds for your flocks, but do what you have promised. The Gadites and the Reubenites answered Moses, your servants will do as the Lord commands. Our children, our wives, our flocks, and all our other livestock will stay behind in the towns of Gilead, while your servants, all those recruited for war, cross over at the insistence of the Lord to engage in battle as the Lord orders. Then Moses gave instructions concerning them to Eleazar the priest, Joshua son of Nun, and the family heads of the Israelite tribe. Moses said to them, if every shock fighter among the Gadites and the Reubenites crosses the Jordan with you to do battle at the insistence of the Lord, and the land is subdued before you, you shall give them the land of Gilead as a holding. But if they do not cross over with you as shock troops, they shall receive holdings among you in the land of Canaan. The Gadites and the Reubenites said to reply, whatever the Lord has spoken concerning your servants, that will we do. We ourselves will cross over as shock troops at the instance of the Lord into the land of Canaan, and we shall keep our hereditary holdings across the Jordan. So Moses assigned to them, to the Gadites, the Reubenites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, son of Joseph, the kingdoms of Sihon, king of the Amorites, and the kingdom of Og, king of Bashan, the land with its various cities, and the territories of their surrounding towns. The Gadites rebuilt Dibon, Ataroth, Aror, Atroth Shofan, Yazer, Yog-Behar, Beit Nimrah, Beit Haran, as fortified towns, or as enclosures for flocks. The Reubenites rebuilt Heshbon, Elileh, Kiriath Haim, Nebo, Baal Meon, some names being changed, and Sibba. They gave their own names to towns that they rebuilt. The descendants of Machir, son of Manasseh, went to Gilead and captured it, dispossessing the Amorites who were there. So Moses gave Gilead to Machir, son of Manasseh, and he settled there. Yair, son of Manasseh, went and captured their villages, which he renamed Havoth Yair. And Nobah went and captured Kenath and its dependencies, renaming it Nobah after himself.
Oh, okay. This one starts out with, actually starts out with God telling Moses he's going to die shortly after taking the vengeance against Midian. Now you think if someone says you're going to die, you would probably want to put it off as long as you can, but it looked like God told Moses, on a Monday you're going to die and you need to avenge Midian, and Tuesday Moses was sending troops out to avenge Midian. So just because he was going to die doesn't mean he was going to try and preserve his life. He still had a job to do, and he was going to fill it properly. So he just didn't say, okay, as long as I got this promise, I can stay alive. Now, sometimes I think when God sent sent the troops to avenge Midian, and you say to yourself, what did Midian do? Well, they tempted the troops, they tempted Israel to sin, but were they under some restriction where they couldn't do that? But why take vengeance on them? They were just doing what they normally do. This is how they lived. The ones who were really at fault was Israel, and God had punished them. In fact, Phinehas, because of his zealotry towards God, prevented more death from Israel. Primarily, some say it was primarily the tribe of Simeon that was involved with it. And it makes you wonder, since God was taking vengeance on Simeon, may do the Midian as well. But he did not. He left that for the nation of Israel to do. But sometimes I wonder, because there's a lot of sinful nations out there. And they just do what they normally do. But God wanted them destroyed. There was quite a lot of reading there, so let me pick up some of the other things. This was, I'm going to say this was an unusual battle. They went to battle, they defeated 5 kings, and they didn't lose a single soldier. Who led the group? Phinehas led the group. Now there were 12,000 men, but they weren't all fighting men. I'm sure some were praying, some were support staff and that kind of thing. But they didn't lose a single soldier. And the towns they raided and defeated, those are some huge numbers for cattle and sheep, donkeys, and gold and silver. But those people, they weren't poor. They were well off. Now it doesn't say what the population was, but there was a lot of booty that they took. The other thing, when the men came back, they killed all the men, brought the women back, and that displeased Moses, because the women were the ones who enticed them. Perhaps Moses was thinking, if they entice you once, they're going to entice you again. And that was the reason, the women were the reason why Israel fell into immorality. So Moses said, if they'd known a man, they were slain. If they were young and not known a man, they survived. But still, there were still, 32,000 women? That's a huge number who had not lain with a man, not slept with a man. Moabites, I think we mentioned once before, these are Lot's children, descendants of Lot. They met with outside the camp. They didn't say they were sprinkled, doesn't say directly, they were sprinkled with the water of the red heifer, but that's the impression you get. I guess verse 23. Everything that that might abide the fire, although this is the sanctification of the booty, those things had to be sanctified. And how do you sanctify them? You sanctify them through fire. Also, I guess, as I said, the men who kill someone or touch a dead body had to be become ritually poor. I guess they would sprinkle the water of illustration, or the water from the red heifer. What else do I have? Oh, they also mentioned raiment that was purified. But I would have thought that part would have been burned. I can understand how you can purify silver and gold, you melt it down. But there was also the sanctification of wooden objects and cloth, goat skin, those kinds of things. And the last part had to do, I didn't mention that. Because there was so much land on that they conquered, a couple of the tribes, children of Israel, wanted to stay in that land because it was good for cattle. And now here, if this upset Moses, the rationale was, and it shows how warped their priority is, they said they wanted to build sheepfolds for their cattle and cities for their children. They were more concerned about their cattle than their children. Mm-hmm. But Moses did straighten them out. He said, okay, you can stay. You can build cities for your children and sheepfolds for your cattle. He was trying to get them to refocus. The idea, I don't know, they lost priority, the focus and the priority. Moses, when they told the story to Moses, he, as I say, was upset. His thinking was, you're going to do the same thing your fathers had done with the rebellion. And they convinced him and assured him, no. We'll go out first. We'll be the Marine. We'll go out first, and we won't come back home until everyone has received their land. And some say, I think that this took about 2 years or so. It was a compromise that Moses accepted. Was it a good idea? Probably not a good idea, but what do you do? I'm not sure what the alternative would have been. Could he have stopped them and say, well, I don't know. But it was a compromise. And I think that's all I have for now.
Okay. Now we're going to Masei, the wanderings. Review the wanderings. This is the first part. From Numbers 33:1 to 34:29. And it reads, these were the marches of the Israelites who started out from the land of Egypt, troop by troop, in charge of Moses and Aaron. Moses recorded the starting points of their various marches as directed by the Lord. Their marches by starting points were as follows. They set out from Ramses in the first month, on the 15th day of the first month. It was on the morrow of Passover offering. The Israelites started out boldly, in plain view, all of the Egyptians. The Egyptians, meanwhile, were buying those among them whom the Lord had struck down, every firstborn, whereby the Lord executed judgment on their gods. The Israelites set out from Ramses and encamped at Sukkoth. They set out from Sukkoth and encamped at Etham, which is on the edge of the wilderness. They set out from Etham and turned about toward Pi-Hahiroth, which faces Baal-Zephon. And they encamped before Migdal. They set out from Pinei-ha-Heroth and passed through the sea into the wilderness. And they made a 3 days journey in the wilderness of Edom and encamped at Meroch. They set out from Meroch and came to Elim. There were 12 springs in Elim and 70 palm trees as they encamped there. They set out from Elim and encamped by the Sea of Reeds. They set out from the Sea of Reeds and encamped in the wilderness of Sin. They set out from the wilderness of Sin and encamped at Dophkah. They set out from Dophkah and encamped at Alush. They set out from Alush and encamped at Rephidim. It was there that the people had no water to drink. They set out from Rephidim and encamped in the wilderness of Sinai. They set out from the wilderness of Sinai and encamped at Kibroth HaTavah. They set out from the Kibroth HaTavah and encamped at Hazaroth. They set out from Hazaroth and encamped at Rithmah. They set out from Rithmah and encamped at Rimon Perez. They set out from Rimon Perez and encamped at Libnah. They set out from Libnah and encamped at Risa. They set out from Risa and encamped at Ki-Helath. They set out from Ki-Helath and encamped at Mount Shapher. They set out from Mount Shapher and encamped at Harodah. They set out from Harodah and encamped at Machaloth. They set out from Machaloth and encamped at Tahath. They set out from Tahath and encamped at Terach. They set out from Terach and encamped at Mitkah. They set out from Mitkah and encamped at Hashmanah. They set out from Hashmanah and encamped at Musroth. They set out from Musroth and encamped at Bnei Yachan. They set out from Bnei Yachan and encamped at Har Hagidgad. They set out from Har Hagidgad and encamped at Yothbath. They set out from Yothbath and encamped at Avoranah. They set out from Avoranah and encamped at Ezion-Geber. They set out from Ezion-Geber and encamped in the wilderness of Sin, that is Kadesh. They set out from Kadesh and encamped at Mount Har, on the edge of the land. Aaron the priest descended Mount Hor at the command of the Lord and died there in the 14th year after the Israelites had left the land of Egypt, on the first day of the 5th month. And Aaron was 123 years old when he died on Mount Hor. And the Canaanites king Arad, who dwelt in the Negev and the land of Canaan, learned of the coming of the Israelites. They set out from Mount Hor and encamped at Zalmunna. They set out from Zalmunna and encamped at Punan. They set out from Punan and encamped at Obosh. They set out from Oboth and encamped at Iye Avarim in the territory of Moab. They set out from Iyim and encamped at Dibon Gad. They set out from Dibon Gad and encamped at Almon Diblathaim. They set out from Almon Diblathaim and encamped in the hills of Avarim before Nebo. They set out from the hills of Avarim and encamped in the steppes of Moab at the Jordan near Jericho. They encamped by the Jordan from Beit Yeshemoth as far as Abal Shittim in the steppes of Moab. In the steppes of Moab at the Jordan near Jericho, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the Israelite people and say to them, when you cross the Jordan into the land of Canaan, and you shall dispossess all the inhabitants of the land, you shall destroy all their figured objects, you shall destroy all their molten images, and you shall demolish all their cult places, and you shall take possession of the land and settle in it. For I have given the land to you to possess. You shall apportion the land among yourselves by lot, clan by clan. With larger groups increase the share, with smaller groups reduce the share. Wherever the lot falls for anyone, that shall be his. You shall have your portions according to your ancestral tribes. But if you do not dispossess the inhabitants of the land, those whom you allow to remain shall be stings in your eyes and thorns in your side, and they shall harass you in the land which you live, so that I will do to you what I plan to do to them." The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Instruct the Israelite people and say to them, when you enter the land of Canaan, this is the land that shall fall to you in your portion, the land of Canaan with its various boundaries. Your southern sector shall extend from the wilderness of Zin along Edom. Your southern border shall start on the east from the tip of the Dead Sea. Your boundary shall then turn to pass south of the ascent of Akrabim and continue to Zin, and its limits shall be south at Kadesh Barnea, reaching Hazar Adar and continuing to Azmon. From Azmon the boundary shall turn toward the Wadi of Egypt and terminate at the sea. For the western boundary you shall have the coast of the Great Sea, that shall serve as your western boundary. This shall be your northern boundary. Draw a line from the Great Sea to Mount Hor. From Mount Hor, draw a line to Lebo Hamath, that the boundaries reach Zadad. The boundary shall then run to Ziphron and terminate at Haz Enan. That shall be your northern boundary. For your eastern boundary you shall draw a line from Hazar Enan to Shepham. From Shepham the boundary shall descend to Rivlah on the east side of Ain. From there the boundary shall continue downward and abut on the eastern slopes of the sea Kinnereth. The boundary shall then descend along the Jordan and terminate at the Dead Sea. That shall be your land as defined by its boundaries on all sides. Moses instructed the Israelites, saying, This is the land you are to receive by lot as your hereditary portion, which the Lord has commanded to be given to the 9.5 tribes. For the Reubenite tribe by its ancestral homes, the Gadite tribe by its ancestral houses, and the half-tribe of Manasseh have already received their portion. Those 2.5 tribes have received their portions across the Jordan, opposite Jericho on the east and the orient side. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, These are the names of the men through whom the land shall be apportioned for you: Eleazar the priest, and Joshua son of Nun, and you shall also take a chieftain from each tribe through whom the land shall be apportioned. These are the names of the men from the tribes of Judah: Caleb son of Jephunneh; from the Simeonite tribe, Samuel son of Amihud; from the tribe of Benjamin, Elidad son of Kislon; from the Danite tribe, a chieftain, Buki son of Yog; for the descendants of Joseph from the Manassite tribe, a chieftain, Hanael son of Ephod; and from the Ephraimite tribe, a chieftain, Kemuel son of Shiftan; from the Zebulunite tribe, a chieftain, Elizaphan son of Parnak; from the Issacharite tribe, a chieftain, Paltiel son of Azan; from the Asherite tribe, a chieftain, Ahihud son of Shelomi; from the Naphthalite tribe, a chieftain, Pedahel son of Amihud. It was these whom the Lord designated to allot portions to the Israelites in the land of Canaan.
Okay, that was quite a bit of reading.
A lot of names.
Yeah, a lot of places. Now, this starts out with, I guess the title is Journeys, and this is Masei.
Masai.
Masei. And these are the journeys, the various places they stop. The idea is here, we hear quite a bit that life is a journey. It's made up of various stops and places. Some where we had good times and bad times, but these are the various stops Israel had gone through. Some counted up the number of stops. It was about 42 stops. The first couple of years there was quite a few, 14 or so, and the last couple of years there was not that many, but they didn't move that much in between. But they're the various stops, And the point of reference where things didn't go well, I think one you mentioned where Aaron died and was buried.
Mm-hmm.
Another place where the people cried out for water. So they're not being, the hard times are not being overlooked. But this is part of the journey. This is what made them what they were. We're sinful people, and the sins brings us close to God, and it makes us who we are. We can't wish that, the one teacher said, we shouldn't, it's a mistake, to wish that we could erase all the bad things that happen in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
The bad things that happen in our lives were things that draw us closer to God.
Mm-hmm.
So we shouldn't want to burn our bad bridges because they made us who we are. I guess if you wanted to try and erase all your bad spots, you know, gee, I'm a perfect person. Well, that's a big mistake to think that. But those mistakes help make you who you are.
Yes.
The one, I did circle this one spot after they left Ramesses, and that's in Egypt. Their first stop was to pitch in Sukkot. And I think we still put up a sukkah, a lot of Jewish people put up a sukkah once a year. So they lived in booths. It was always a temporary dwelling place. But I found that interesting. But life is built on a journey. Good spots and bad spots. Later on, Moses gets assistance in dividing a land and who was going to apportion it. I don't know if they fully occupied that land. Well, maybe they did have some sense of peace at one time in the book of Joshua. Okay, but that's all I have for now.
Okay. And the last part is the Levitical towns, cities of refuge, Numbers 35:1 through 36:13. The Lord spoke to Moses in the steppes of Moab at the Jordan near Jericho, saying, instruct the Israelite people to assign out of the holdings apportioned to them towns for the Levites to dwell in. You shall also assign to the Levites pasture land around their towns. Their towns shall be theirs to dwell in. If the pasture shall be for cattle they own, and all other beasts. The town pasture that you are to assign to the Levites shall extend 1,000 cubits outside the town wall around. You shall measure off 2,000 cubits outside the town on the east side, 2,000 on the south side, 2,000 on the west side, and 2,000 on the north side, with the town on the center. That shall be the pasture for their towns. The towns that you assign to the Levites shall comprise the 6 cities of refuge which you are to set aside for a manslayer to flee to which you shall add 42 towns. Thus, the total of the towns that you assign to the Levites shall be 48 towns with their pasture, and setting aside towns from the holdings of the Israelites. Take more from the larger groups and less from the smaller, so that each assigns towns to the Levites in a proportion to the share it receives. The Lord spoke further to Moses, speak to the Israelite people and say to them, when you cross the Jordan into the land of Canaan, you shall provide yourself with places to serve you as cities of refuge, in which a manslayer who has killed a person unintentionally may flee. The cities shall serve you as refuge from the avengers, so that the manslayer may not die, unless he has stood trial before the assembly. The towns that you thus assign shall be 6 cities of refuge in all. 3 cities shall be set aside beyond the Jordan, and the other 3 shall be set aside in the land of Canaan. They shall serve as cities of refuge. These 6 cities shall serve the Israelites and the resident aliens among them for refuge, so that anyone who kills a person unintentionally may flee there. Anyone, however, who strikes another with an iron object, so that the death results in murder, the murderer must be put to death. If he struck him with a stone tool that could cause death, and death results, he is a murderer. The murderer must be put to death. Similarly, if the object with which he struck him was a wooden tool that could cause death, and death resulted, he is a murderer. The murderer must be put to death. The blood avenger himself shall put the murderer to death. It is he who shall put him to death upon encounter. So too, if he pushed him in haste or hurled something at him on purpose and death resulted, or if he struck him with his hand in enmity and death resulted, the assailant shall be put to death. He is a murderer. The blood avenger shall put the murderer to death upon encounter. But if he pushed him without malice, aforethought, or hurled any object at him unintentionally, or inadvertently dropped upon him any deadly object of stone, and death resulted, though he was not an enemy of his and did not seek his harm, in such cases the assembly shall decide between the slayer and the blood avenger. The assembly shall protect the manslayer from the blood avenger, and the assembly shall restore him to the city of refuge to which he fled, and there he shall remain until the death of the high priest, who has anointed with the sacred oil. But if the manslayer ever goes outside the limits of the city of refuge to which he has fled, and the blood avenger comes upon him outside the limits of the city of refuge, and the blood avenger kills the manslayer, there is no blood guilt on his account, for he must remain inside the city of refuge until the death of the high priest. After the death of the high priest, the manslayer may return to his landholding. Such shall be your law of procedure throughout the ages in all your settlements. If anyone kills a person, the manslayer may be executed only on the evidence of witnesses. The testimony of a single witness against a person shall not suffice for a sentence of death. You may not accept a ransom for the life of murderer who is guilty of the capital crime. He must be put to death. Nor may you accept ransom in lieu of flight to the city of refuge, enabling one to return to live on its land before the death of the priest. You shall not pollute the land in which you live, for blood pollutes the land, and the land can have an expiation for blood that is shed on it, except by the blood of him who shed it. You shall not defile the land in which you live, in which I myself abide, for I, the Lord, abide among the Israelite people. The family heads and the clan of the descendants of Gilead, son of Machir, son of Manasseh, one of the Josephite clans, came forward and appealed to Moses and the chieftain family heads of the Israelites. They said, the Lord commanded my Lord to assign the land to the Israelites as share by lot, and my Lord was further commanded by the Lord to assign the share of our kinsman Zelophehad to his daughters. Now if they marry persons from another Israelite tribe, their share will be cut off from our ancestral portion and be added to the portion of the tribe into which they marry. Thus our allotted portion will be diminished. And even when the Israelites observe the Jubilee, their share will be added to that of the tribe into which they marry, and their share will be cut off from the ancestral portion of our tribe. So Moses, at the Lord's bidding, instructed the Israelites, saying, the plea of Josephite tribe is just. This is what the Lord has commanded concerning the daughters of Zelophehad. They may marry anyone they wish, provided they marry into the clan of their father's tribe. No inheritance of the Israelites may pass over from one tribe to another, but the Israelites must remain bound bound each to the ancestral portion of his tribe. Every daughter among the Israelite tribes who inherits a share must marry someone from a clan of her father's tribe in order that every Israelite may keep his ancestral share. Thus, no inheritance shall pass over from one tribe to another, but the Israelite tribe shall remain bound with each to its portion. The daughters of Zelophehad did as the Lord had commanded Moses. Ahaglah, Tirzah, Hoglah, Milcah, Noach, Zelophehad's daughters, were married to sons of their uncles, marrying into the clans of the descendants of Masei, son of Joseph, and so their share remained in the tribe of their father's clan. These are the commandments and regulations that the Lord enjoined upon the Israelites through Moses as the steps of Moab at the Jordan near Jericho.
Oh, okay.
And before we go on to discuss it,
All right,
we
okay.
want to
All right. I only got part of the
Hazak, they meet
Hazek.
Hazek. Be strong, and may we be strengthened. Okay, now we'll discuss it.
Okay, I'm trying to remember where we started. This one started out with the inheritance. Oh, the manslayer. The guy who kills an individual by mistake. And the idea here is there are cities of refuge where he can go, get a fair trial, and well, let me back up a little bit. This is a case where one individual kills another individual, either directly or intentionally or unintentionally.
Mm-hmm.
For the family member, it really doesn't matter, because you've taken a family member and what they want is revenge. Now earlier, revenge could only be taken by God, but here, God knows human emotion, human feeling, and he knows even if it was an accident, a family member is not going to see it that way as an accident. He's going to want to take that person's life. And if the person doesn't make it to a city of refuge, he can kill him, and that's the end of it. That's I don't want to say it's fine, but that's the end of it. The blood avenger can take vengeance for taking another person's life, whether it's intentional or not intentional, or accidental.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if he makes it to the city, he's required to stay in that city. If he comes out of the city, the blood avenger can take care of him at that time, and that's fine. He can do that. He is he is forced to stay in that city until the high priest dies. The idea is there's the high priest, when he dies, everyone's impacted by that. Everyone's in mourning. And the blood avenger's desire to kill, to get vengeance, probably is diminished. And that's why the fellow can probably leave the city. But the idea is the city offers a type of protection for someone who kills by accident. Why would vengeance be allowed here? Now, you may kill someone accidentally, but it could be a careless act too. Perhaps it's a piece of equipment that you didn't maintain properly, or you didn't do maintenance on it properly, and the person died from your carelessness. It could be an accident, sure, but your carelessness caused the accident. And the person died, and you'll want revenge. The family members will want revenge. They don't care the various circumstances. And I think the last one the last one has to do with Zelophehad's daughters.
Yes.
They convinced Moses that if their father's name would be erased from the land if they didn't if he didn't receive his share of land. And Moses agreed. He gave them a share in the land in their father's name. But then the tribe they were with said, wait a minute, if they marry outside the tribe, our land will be diminished. And Moses said, okay, the way to solve that, they could only marry inside the tribe, and that means that the tribe's share of the land would not be diminished. A good observation, I think. I think that's all I have.
Very good. Well, we start next week, and I think one of my favorite parts of the Torah is Deuteronomy, or that's the song. Davarim. I love this part because I think it sums up the whole Bible from from Genesis to Revelation. I really do. So this is why it's my favorite part. Which means we're really in the season of coming up on the High Holy Days. And we're still praying, fasting and praying because we are a week away from Tisha B'Av, which is August 3rd. And we have been fasting and praying during this period of time because so many devastating things happen to the Jewish people on Tisha B'Av. So next week's Parashah is Davarim, it's Deuteronomy, 1st chapter, 1st verse through the 3rd chapter, the 22nd verse, and it says, Be'ele hadavarim asher davar Moshe el kol Yisrael be'aver ha'yardan be'mitbar be'arbat mul suf be'yad be'yin paran u bidatofal ve'laven ve'chetzrot ve'di zahav. These are the words that Moses addressed to all Israel on the other side of the Jordan, through the wilderness and the Arabah near Suf, between Paran and Tophel, Lavan and Hazaroth, and Di Zahab. Right. And I gave you a song.
Yeah. Want to sing this part of it?
We're gonna sing it in the Hebrew.
Oh, I need to make that
Okay.
sure of that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, let me think. The transliteration is the first, to the left there.
Mhm.
And let me see. We're saying the two paragraphs.
First two?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Shalom Aleichem, Malakei Asharet, Malakei Eyom, Mi Melech, Malakei Amlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Malakim L'Shalom, Malakei Ashalom, Malakei Eyom, Mi Melech, Malakei Amlakim, Am Kadosh Baruch Hu. And the translation is, peace be unto you, ye ministering angels, angels of the Most High, ye that come from the supreme King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He. May your coming be in peace, ye ministering angels, angels of the Most High, ye that come from the supreme King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He.
Amen.
Okay. So, we say,
Shabbat Shalom. Shavuot.
Shabbat Shalom and Shavuot Tov. Whole world is waiting.
Sing the song of Shabbat. Whole world is waiting. Sing the song of Shabbat. whole world is waiting. Sing the song of Shabbat. Whole world is waiting. Sing the song of Shabbat.